What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. Recent events and what we learn from them. I put off offering typology services for the longest time, and I did that because typology people really are the worst. Typology people deserve to spend hundreds of dollars on disinterested, minimal, maybe right, maybe wrong garbage. I used to look at what typology services people would charge and think, that's ridiculous, that's malicious. Who would pay for that? Why would you even think to charge that much? But over the years, I ended up getting why and even rooting for these people. First, on a personal level, the idea of buying typology services is ridiculous because what you're doing is you are outsourcing your soul development. With typology or typological strategies, these are not just things you do, they are things you can just do, but if you're in typology to grow and to get stronger, part of that process is developing this knowledge or these strategies for yourself. We talk about it all the time. Higher level typology is like martial arts. It's not like a series of equations you just learn. And the reason I mention this is it's an insight into the sorts of people who pay for typology services. They're operating with a fundamental misunderstanding of what typology is and how it works. They're paying for something they don't understand. Meaning, when they receive their typology services, they won't understand what they're looking at or how to use it, and immediately that's a problem. Because they don't just want tools or a head start in this learning system, they want results right now. That's what they might say otherwise, but what they're paying you for is results that they didn't need to work for, that they think they can just pay for. So when they realize they do, in fact, still need to do the work themselves, they get agitating. Either they get hostile or they get pushy, wanting you again or more to do the work for them for free. And this is something they are inclined to do, not just because they don't understand what they're buying or what they're even trying to understand. I don't understand. Well, I mean, I do understand why lots of people get into typology, but it should be apparent almost immediately why most people get into typology. Typology won't do that for them. What am I talking about? Typology people are almost always the sorts of people who got bullied and learned nothing from the experience. They're always mentally and emotionally fucked up, and instead of trying to resolve or overcome whatever caused them to have these issues, they're always looking for quick fixes, which is why they are paying you in the first place. They view you as a plumber and themselves as a broken or clogged shitter, which they are, but those sorts of plumbers who deal with human toilets don't exist. Even if you go to a licensed therapist, you still need to do the work yourself. You can pay for help, but a therapist won't solve your problems for you. It was Bully Whispers is a great mob channel. Something he discussed. Sorts of people. Essential. 3 types. People who can figure out for themselves, people who can figure out when shown, and people who cannot figure out even when shown. Most typology people are the third. They are most likely in typology in the first place, because to them, this is another thing they believe will solve all their problems. But that's not going to happen because they can't figure out for themselves. They can't figure out when shown. They can't figure out anything. This is another, in their minds, this is another thing. And it's interesting because people act like traumatized or fucked up people have some deep or complex internal world. And in my experience, that's not the case. If one of these tier 3 people is traumatized or fucked up, you don't have a complicated, interesting, unique individual. What you have is a badger that's been lit on fire. It doesn't know how to put itself out, or it maybe has an idea of how to put itself out, but it doesn't want to. And it's going to run around and fuck up and burn and bite people. That's one of the reasons I recommend you stay away from trauma people. Odds are very good you're dealing with a vessel for whatever they've been infected with, a carrier. Most typology people have this blunted, nothing behind the eyes, getting in the way of things or fucking things up affect. They exist to get in the way and cause you problems. That's why I held off on doing anything typology related for a long time. I don't want to deal with these people. But they did what they do. They saw what they believed would solve their problems without their needing to put any work in, and they pushed and they fucked up my stuff, and I gave in and offered typology services. And now, because I didn't price people out, I thought I was pricing people out in a relatively fair way with the $30 for one question. I'm angry at myself. I should have known. That's my bad. Because what happens when you are trying to be fair even when you don't want to be? You're made to pay for it. The gig got nuked because one of these fuckers spazzed out when the guidelines were enforced. But once again, that's my bad. Let's go down the list of everything I did wrong. First, pricing. It should have been a lot more from the very, very beginning. That would have kept most people away. Well, I say it would have kept most people away, but again, lots of these typologists are charging hundreds of dollars for minimal services and they're making money. So maybe that's a mistake I should see coming and start trying to work around right now. Second thing was the deliverables and the entire framing of the gig. I was limiting people to one question. Now, did that stop people from asking multiple questions? No, but we'll get to that. The issue is one question isn't very limiting. Because with one question, you can ask about the entirety of human history. So on the buyer's end, that wasn't much of a limiter. And then on the seller's end, my end, there was also no minimum or maximum in word count in these answers. And most of the answers were 1,500 to 2,000 words in length. And of course, that's never enough for people. They're too stupid to read the words, or more likely, they're too lazy, realizing that if you're buying an instruction booklet, they're just instructions, you still have to do the work yourself. That doesn't sit well with people. And my mistake was offering clarifications, thinking, alright, maybe somebody doesn't understand the way I worded something, or they're unfamiliar with this or that particular concept. I'll make it available, or I'll make clarifications available to people. Stupid on my part. Don't do that. Don't even leave the door open. Never leave the door open. And that's the next part of this. Because the question box, the amount of text you can fit in it is small. I provided an additional unlimited box for providing additional context. Do you think people use that space to get more specific and riff or key into a more particular point within the singular question they're asking? No. Why would you even think someone might do that? No, they ask 5 different fucking questions. Tell me their life story. They do that in the tarot gig too. And when people are doing this, they're doing 2 things. One, they are not trying to get a better answer, they are trying to get more answers, and they're also looking for attention. These people, they don't have anyone in their lives to listen to them, so they think by paying you, validating their bullshit and being your buddy or being their buddy comes with the package, and it doesn't. But they'll force it. And because there's no particular limit on the report I deliver, and because I care about, unfortunately, providing a quality product, there are no hard boundaries. Now, there is the one question boundary, but that pisses people off, and that's what led to this gig getting nuked. We'll get to that. This is interesting. So you go from a fair-ish 30, and I'm getting only 24 of that. It goes from what realistically should be about 45 minutes of work to about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And that's still not enough. Because you, stupid, offer free clarifications. And Jesus. One clarification I needed to instate. But there are workarounds for that too, because if they can't riff on everything they want clarified, or to clarify, for you to work out further for them because they don't want to do anything, they will stick to one, quotes, clarification and then riff on that endlessly. So now it's more like 3 to 5 hours of work, which previously, that's about how much per hour I would get with the lowest level of the tarot gigs. That's fine because I like tarot. I don't like typology, and I don't like typology people. And I don't like them because these are the situations these motherfuckers put you in. You'll occasionally get annoying tarot customers, but I've been doing tarot now for about a year and a third, and I've had one bad tarot experience. I've had a number of annoying tarot experiences, but I've had only one bad one. At least in terms of actual orders among tarot people. Mystically oriented people, ones who aren't foo-foo shit, and I guess we've lucked out, we haven't had a lot of foo-foo shit tarot people, a cut above. I don't mind working for $4 an hour for them. Now, I have increased the tarot prices from 5, 10, and 20 to 10, 15, and 30, but if you message me, tell me you're from the channel, or you're already a repeat customer, just message me. Discounts, no problem. If you've been a really good customer for a long time, original rates, no worries. But I'm increasing the prices because I think I should value my time more. I don't have a lot of it these days. And then my final mistake. Born in trying to do an everybody wins thing. There's no situation in which everybody wins. It's you win or you lose. You're either first or you're last. And it figures this is what they got me on. Now, in my MBTI gig, I had an opt-in for making your answer available to the public for free. Now, I very much enjoyed when people didn't opt in. You sometimes feel like forces in your vicinity. You aren't. One of the nice things about tertiary SI is getting to be in goblin mode at all times with concepts. People representing concepts. To my mind, it was a no-brainer thing to opt in. Everybody benefits. Everybody gets more typology information for free, and by hosting it where I was hosting it, I get good publicity, more impressions, all these things. Everybody wins. Some people chose not to do that, and even when the gig was active, that confused me at first, and then I appreciated it, and I had a premonition that I would need. That's going to be important later, and it was. It is. It's not just that no good deed goes unpunished. That's. You get the sentiment when you hear that phrase, but you need to think anytime you're about to go out of your way to try to do something positive, imagine it as handing someone a gun and asking them to shoot you in the face. By going out of your way to try to do something positive, you are inviting something bad to happen. And usually it's not just something bad to happen, it is someone to do something shitty to you. Now, the cocksucker who got me, it's not their fault. It's my fault. Because I should have known better. Right? You need to think about things this way. Otherwise, you'll live to repeat the same shit over and over and over again. And back to that tier system, it's very important if you're a tier 2 person. The people who can learn if they're shown. Now, in very specific things, I am someone who can learn things for myself, but in just about everything else, I need to be shown. Anyway, the buyer was another typical typology person, and I saw where this was going, because immediately... Oh, that was another thing about that gig. I encouraged people to contact me before putting in your money, because I recognize this is not like a tarot spread or something. This is not like a vending machine. This is a more personalized experience. So, as annoying as it is, message me and we'll work out what needs to be done. Specifically what you're asking, if I can help you. You're probably going to ask more than one question, so how much it's worth. And that's another thing. I didn't mind answering multiple questions as long as people had a bit of respect. That's it. And again, were you really expecting to receive any kind of respect or decency? It's your mistake for leaving that door open. And that's... The tarot gigs, there are ways that whole thing could be more efficient on Fiverr's end. Trying to organize the MBTI gig was miserable because they did not have any ways to solve problems proactively. Fiverr is a very reactive platform for the most part. And they're usually good in their reactivity. But we'll get to that. Tricky, very clever. I gave the buyer 1,700 words, answered the primary question, and also addressed some of the auxiliary points. Didn't get paid for those. Addressed them anyway. But, seriously, I'm not doing this make it very clear. And then the buyer started to spaz out, and it was one of those, not the exact opening of There Will Be Blood, but the I'm an oil man monologue. I didn't really want any of your money to begin with. And now that you're spazzing out after being called on being a sneak, an indecent sneak, I don't want your money. So I blocked him as a buyer. No more orders. And while pissing, I thought about another thing while we're here. People who say, well, why do you need to be mean? And I was mean here. I wasn't insulting, I wasn't calling the buyer a cocksucker like I am now. I was very forward with the rules and guidelines. Relatively nice when you consider a fucking sneak trying to get shit from you, and actually getting it, because again, this isn't an order I canceled, this is an order I delivered, did more than was outlined in the fucking guidelines. Stupid. You are so fucking stupid. And you shouldn't do that shit. Why is it important to be harsh? Two reasons. One, I think a lot of the ways people think about things are consequences of the fact they don't do anything. For about a year, fucking typology people were being shitty, contacting me constantly about doing typology work on all of my platforms, including ones I don't use anymore, not taking a polite no, but here's somebody you could go to for what you need answers, not accepting those, and then further trying to force it, pushing with the tarot gig. People would buy tarot spreads and then ask typology questions and try to fucking force me to do typology work. And once again, all the while being so fucking stupid and no awareness of anything. This one cocksucker took the lowest rates for my tarot gigs, worked out it was probably around $4 an hour I was earning, and wanted to pay me, I think it was $7 an hour to be his assistant. And that was supposed to be a raise from what my tarot gigs were. And the dude was dead fucking serious. You need to be immediate and firm, because if you give them 1 inch, they'll take everything. Now, we'll get to the lessons we've learned here. It's funny, being harsh and firm was actually the nicer thing. And we're not going to be doing that anymore, but we'll get to that. Anyway, after I blocked the buyer, I went into the MBTI gig and made even more adjustments. Because, again, there is no good way on Fiverr to be especially proactive. Well, they're an Israeli company. They want money in their hands immediately. Anything that would stand between them and money, they will not stand for, they won't develop around, even if it... They jerk themselves off like they have this excellent customer experience thing, excellent seller experience thing too, and it's not the case. It's all about getting money into this company's hands as fast as possible. And that's what ended up doing me, and again, we'll get to that. I made additional changes for even more clarity, and my biggest mistake, disclosure. Being honest with people. You should never, ever, for any reason, go out of your way to be honest. That opt-in I mentioned at the beginning. Opt-in to share your answer. You don't have to say yes, it's an option, with the public for free. I felt a little bad about leaving it that vague, because what does it mean made available to the public? What's going on there? Where can I see this? So I mentioned that it's made available to the public for free on the Patreon. And I went to sleep, and when I woke up, the gig was nuked. And what did they get me on? Trying to move people to another payment platform. I was expecting something to happen. I was not expecting that, and it didn't even click with me what they were talking about at first. And then I realized. Here's the way I think it played out. Dude reported me for something. Despite receiving a completed order, everything within the guidelines, customer service comes and takes a look. Now, I'm sure the customer service person didn't like my tone. I know that played a part of it. But everything was in order. Even the Caesar Milan was in order. So they got me on a technicality I introduced that day in an effort to be more transparent. And Fiverr doesn't, that's one of the things Fiverr does not fuck around about. Moving people to other platforms, payment platforms specifically. But they have a mechanism by which they pause or can pause your gig and request you make whatever modifications, and they didn't. So I know this HR dipshit, looking at nothing other than the tone and disliking it, and feeling the need to strike back and do something, but has nothing, finds the technicality and kills you. Kills me. And that is the way people operate. Now, people don't need to find those technicalities to do to you what they want to do to you. But if you give them any opening for any reason, they will take it and ride it as far as they can. And fair play to them. That's my bad. I am still a sentimental, wanting at least to try to do the quotes right thing sometimes moron. And I won't be making that mistake again. Or I probably will, but not in that exact same way. Oh, and that's another thing. I know that this customer service person, whoever it was, must be a true janitor, because while the technicality got that gig nuked, I spent most of today was very busy, but I spent a lot of today looking, and there don't appear to be any other effects on my account. Everything else is working perfectly fine. Meaning, while this cocksucker did everything he could, the confines are very narrow. Now, I bring this up because there's an automated message recommending you make a similar gig without that one particular issue, but I'm not going to do that. Patreon has been really good to me. We are offering presently typology services on Patreon for 3 times the price and 1/5 the effort maximum. And with Patreon, everything is off platform. They want you doing stuff, but they don't want you doing it on their platform. I don't know why they're like that, but that's really nice too. So we'll have typology services available, but there is zero oversight. There is zero anything. This is a seller dominant market, and God bless for that. I also added a $35 tier for a Celtic Cross tarot spread once per month. Not something I'm recommending, but something that is available. Now that the Patreon prices for tarot and the Fiverr prices for tarot are more in line. Now, it's taken us 30 minutes to get here, but what did we learn? What other lessons have we taken out of all this? First, you do still need to practice being harsh, especially verbally, because nothing is worse than being unable to defend yourself when someone comes at you like that. Not being comfortable with aggression. You need to practice it. And online is a good place to start. However, people point out semi-regularly that I almost certainly am not as aggressive in real life as I am online. And you're completely right. Why am I more aggressive online? One, because I can afford to be, and I need to practice or get comfortable with aggression in a place I can afford it so I can carry that skill into reality. Two, I don't like you. And three, because you don't just learn how to be aggressive in terms of performing it, you also learn the context around it. This situation is a perfect example. And it's curious because in real life, I don't understand why these lessons don't translate. In real business, it seems like I already know this. Maybe because that's a standard for me, and when I'm online, one, I'm online, different world, and two, different approach. I don't know how to cross the lessons effectively. You need to be comfortable with aggression. You need to know how to be aggressive, but you don't deploy it constantly for strategic reasons. Because if you're aggressive with someone and you don't solve the problem totally right then you will have problems. Aggression is like pulling a gun. You need to have a gun. You need to be comfortable shooting it. You need to practice with it. Bagalzi 2026, the year of the gun, which we'll make a video about maybe closer to the end of the year. But if you pull it at the wrong moment, it fucks everything up. And this develops into two additional lessons. First, you need to know what needs to happen with or about someone immediately. In other words, don't be optimistic. Okay, don't give people chances. Another thing I've learned, if someone needs a chance and you haven't known them for a long time, as in this isn't coming out of nowhere, or you have a consistent record of somebody who usually doesn't need chances, if you need to give someone new a chance, it's certain they are the sort of person you'll need to be giving chances to a lot. Meaning, dealing with them will result in a negative overall for you. And it gets worse because if you give them a chance and then you revoke that later, they'll be even more aggressive because they feel entitled to chances. These are the sorts of people who feel they deserve just to be accepted for what they are by everyone at all times. Know what somebody is and what needs to happen with them the moment, or as soon as you can. And then, when it comes time to act, do not be aggressive with people unless you have a method of putting them down or ending the problem immediately and the aggression serves that. And even then, it's probably better not to be aggressive. Aggression is something you tap into when you are cornered. Now again, you need to put yourself in situations you can learn to be aggressive, but when you're acting, that's something you whip out of your holster at the last second because you have no other option. Every other time, it pays to be pleasant. You don't have to be super nice, but be pleasant, be quiet, making a minimal impression, letting them get comfortable, and then when it comes time to do something, do it all at once. If you give someone time and reason to attack you, they will. Now, they'll attack you even if you don't give them reason. That's one of the reasons you need to learn to be aggressive. But you need to strike fast and hard and totally, and leave them no room to do anything once it's over. As much as you can, at least. Another thing I've learned, well, I've been learning, but the nails were driven home here. Do not give anyone anything. Anything you give anyone becomes the position from which they will take more. You don't necessarily need to make people fight for things, but they need to work for things. And when you do this, I find they get less and they're less inclined to try to take more when they need to work or fight to get something. And this is another thing. This is not, you can look at this as a cruelty thing, but it's not if you're looking at outcomes. Life is, the entire thing about life is trying to feel secure. You're never secure. You never have anything to be happy about, but you're trying to feel that way. When you put someone in a situation, they feel like they have earned something, or maybe gotten one over on you or something like that, you can feel happy because you didn't give them as much or they didn't get as much, and they can feel happy because they get to feel clever or durable or whatever. Make people work for things. Everyone will be happier. Now, this one connects with the point we just made, and we mentioned it earlier, but do not go out of your way to be nice or just. You are asking to be taken advantage of. And I don't know why this happens. This is a fact, but I don't know, I can't track any line of reasoning for why it's the case. It almost seems cosmic. Trying to be noble gets you hurt, and it usually gets other people hurt also. This doesn't mean you need to go around being a mustache-twirling villain, but you really, if you want to try to do good things in the world, you won't do it by going around being good or trying to be good. You will get fucked over, and you'll get other people fucked over. Another thing is have everything prepared. As in, what is the first thing you do when something goes wrong? You kick yourself for not preparing the way you knew you needed to prepare. And I don't know why it's so easy or so natural not to make preparations, specifically the preparations you know you need. Bite the bullet, set aside the time, spend the money, whatever it is. Make those preparations now, while you can. Because if you don't, that is where you'll get hit, and it will make you upset. Frankly, I think these things happen to teach you lessons. As in, I'm agitated about this dumb MBTI thing, but all things considered, it could have been a lot worse. And I overreacted and knee-jerked, but everything is in position now. Or at least every major thing I know needs to be done is done, and I can relax again. Now, I can't actually relax, you're at risk at all times, but again, the point is doing everything you need to do to feel relaxed. Oh, and that's another thing. Be proactive. In most situations, the more immediate and decisive you are, the better things will be. And for me, that's difficult because that's not who I am. But it is the case. Moving swiftly and firmly, especially when you're dealing with people, will get you better outcomes because it keeps them on the back foot. If they are spending their time defending or worrying, then that's time they are not attacking you. And even if someone is not attacking you right now, if you know they will attack you at some point, every moment you leave them alone, they are getting stronger. It's Captain Willard shit. Okay, I think we're done. Abandon hope, know how to fight, but know when to fight, at least openly like that. Get your bases covered now, and when it's time to act, act quickly and ultimately. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.